spooky horror films. Ooh. G'day to all you lovely people and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kathy and today I'm going to share with you 20, not one movie for the month, because it is October, it is Halloween, and I know a lot of people celebrate Halloween. I actually don't. In fact, most people in Australia don't celebrate Halloween. But for me, it is another excuse to watch horror films. In fact, I am a huge fan of horror films. I'm one of these people who doesn't scare easily, so I really enjoy watching them. And I love watching them in the dead of night by myself. I like being creeped out. I like that adrenaline rush as you're sitting on the edge of your seat, where you jump a foot in the air when something unexpected happens. And I don't suffer from nightmares. I can just put it aside and go to bed without worrying about it. But I know a lot of people don't like horror films, and that is understandable. My best friend is hopeless. We went to a cinema once and oh my God, she jumped up so high in the air, she knocked off her glasses, she hit me in the face. And I thought, yeah, I don't think I'll be taking her to any more of those. But some people like me do love them. I'm sure that if you are a horror movie buff, you have probably seen these films or may have heard of them. But perhaps there is something in this list that you haven't seen. I've divided this list into two sections. I'm going to talk about 10 classic horror films, and then the second section will be more contemporary horror films, say films that have come out in the last 20 years or so. So let's get started. Number 1, Psycho. Came out in 1960 and it was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. It is a classic. It is innovative. It was groundbreaking. And you know what's really interesting about Psycho is you actually never get to see the crimes being committed. But if you haven't seen it, it is definitely worth watching. Now, Psycho has been remade. Don't waste your time with the remake. It doesn't come anywhere close to the classic. All right, number 2, The Exorcist, 1973. The Exorcist is not so much, in my opinion, a horror film as much as a film about gore. It is about possession. Yeah. And if you haven't seen it, it is definitely worth watching, but you may want to watch it on an empty stomach. That's what I think anyway. Number 3, Halloween, the original, 1978 with Jamie Lee Curtis. I loved this film when I first saw it. It is one of the few films that actually did spook me out, because for most of the film, the killer is human. He's not supernatural in any way. I find films with, say, a serial killer much, much scarier than any films about ghosts or ghouls or anything like that. But that's just me. It has perhaps dated a little, like most films have, but it still packs a real punch. I think so. I still enjoy it, even after all these years. Number 4, Carrie, 1976. There has been a remake. It isn't too bad, but the original is the best. It really is. This one is about a girl with paranormal powers. That is probably the best description. Why is it so good? Sissy Spacek really killed it in this one. Her performance is very nuanced, and it's actually a really sad story too, in my opinion anyway. And I think it has a very, very young John Travolta in it. Oh, and I should mention it is based on a Stephen King novel. Always a reason for me to watch it anyway. Number 5, The Amityville Horror, 1979. The original again. This one is about possession as well. And the effect it has on some of the residents in this home, a young family. I found it spooky, but as I said, anything supernatural doesn't really bother me. I liked it because it is more about the characters and how they are affected by the atmosphere in this house. And if you haven't seen it, that's all I'm going to say. Number 6, Village of the Damned, 1960. This is an English film, which I only recently saw, but I think I have seen it before. It is about a group of young children in this tiny little village in England who seem to have special abilities. What is really good about this film is how creepy these kids are. I really think they are, actually. Definitely worth watching if you like more classic horror films, older horror films, which may not be as well known, I think, as some of the others I've listed today. Number 7, Poltergeist, 1982. I love this film. This one was directed by Steven Spielberg. It is very well known. It has been remade. Don't waste your time. Seriously, don't. The original is creepy. It is unpredictable, and it also has that great charm that Spielberg has with children. They are just so compelling to watch. I just love this one. I love the entire family, even though horrific things happen to them. Definitely a favourite of mine. Number 8, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1978 version. I have seen all of them, and in my opinion, that one is the best with Donald Sutherland. It's a cool idea, actually. It has an element of science fiction and an element of horror as well. This one is more atmospheric, in my opinion. Number 9, The Omen, 1976, the original. The remake is one of the worst I've seen of any remakes. I hated it, but the original is superb. It is one of my favorite horror films. It is about the devil, and that is all I want to say at this point. What is so good about it is the superb acting. You have Gregory Peck, one of my favorite all-time actors. There is also Lee Remick, and the child who plays Damien is just perfect in this one. I think in the remake they chose really unwisely for the child. They chose someone who looked demonic. But what is so powerful about this one is that Damien looks angelic. And that, I think, is what makes it such a great film. Definitely worth watching. And number 10 is The Shining, 1980. I had to include this. It is directed by Stanley Kubrick. It is based on a Stephen King novel, even though King hates this version of the book. But Kubrick's interpretation of the book has turned it into a masterpiece, if you ask me. Now, I understand why King doesn't like the film, but this is an outstandingly well-made film. The atmosphere is incredible, and Jack Nicholson, seriously, he looks scary in this film. He looks scary most of the time, but in this one, he excelled. He was so good. And not just him, even Shelley Duvall, who I am not a fan of, and the young boy who plays Danny Torrance, everyone is excellent in this. But the visuals is what sets this film apart. It is still spooky, even after, 40 years. I love this film. I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. Let's move on to more contemporary horror films. Again, I'm going to go through 10 of them. They're not in any particular order. I should have said that at the beginning. I'm just going through them as I remember them. Let's start off with the first, which is Ghost Ship, which came out in 2002. I think the title gives it away. This one has a little bit of gore, but I actually really liked this film. I found it very atmospheric. I don't think many people know of this film, even though it has a well-known cast. I think Gabriel Byrne is in this. I love Gabriel Byrne. And Juliana Margulis, I can't remember her name, the good wife. She is also in this. And I thought the acting was really good, and I liked the story. It isn't perfect. I'm not going to say it's a great film, but definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. Number 2, Grave Encounters, 2011. This was one I stumbled across by accident. I didn't think I would find it that impressive. It is almost like a true life documentary, Blair Witch style. And I thought it was really well done. I found it spooky and creepy, and I loved it. I think it is definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. Number 3, Paranormal Activity, 2009. This was one film that surprised me. I have become a little bit jaded when it comes to horror films, but that one spooked me, and I really liked it. It was more because of the way it was done. Again, it is a doco-style horror film, and it's very, very good. It spawned a lot of sequels. They're not all as good, though some of them are not bad. Hounds of Love, 2016. I don't know if I should even call this one a horror film, though I think it has horror elements. It is an Australian film, and it is about a young girl who is kidnapped by a couple. I think this one is more a psychological thriller. Quite horrific, actually. As I've said already, anything that looks remotely realistic, has more of an impact on me, and this one definitely did. I really enjoyed it though, and I do recommend it if you like that kind of thing. I have lost track of which number I'm up to, so whichever one it is. Ninth Gate, 1999. This stars Johnny Depp, and I think it was directed by Roman Polanski. This one is more about the occult. Depp is excellent in this, and this was a film I could not predict. I thought it was really, really good, and I'm always surprised that people don't know about it. I'd be interested to hear if you have heard of it, if you have seen it actually. Okay, next, The Blair Witch Project. I had to include it. It came out in 1999. I know it was filmed on a low budget, and it was being advertised on the internet as a true story. Though, of course, I don't trust anything on the internet. It wasn't, but it was filmed as a documentary, and it was spooky as all hell. Yeah, that one was creepy. I thought it was brilliantly done, and I loved it, but I know some people don't. It was one that just ramps up your emotions, I think. Well, it definitely ramped up mine anyway. Next, 13 Ghosts, 2001. Now, I didn't find this one as scary as some films, and there are some flaws with this film, quite a few, but it is worth watching just for this house. I loved this house so much. I was like, oh, I want to live there. I don't think I would like it, but it is just spectacular and definitely worth watching just for that. It is also quite gory, so be prepared for that. Next, 2 films. The original and the sequel, The Descent, which came out in 2005. The sequel came out in 2009. This stars all women, a group of friends who go on adventures together, and they decide to explore these caves. I can't remember where it takes place. This is one of my favourites. I think it is one of the best horror films I have seen in quite a long time. I've seen it several times, but I just loved how the characters reacted to being in this situation. I felt that their reactions were realistic, and it was just so good. Definitely worth watching, and you should definitely watch the sequel. I think so anyway. Let me know if you've heard of The Descent. I don't know many people who have. Jeepers Creepers 2001. I just loved this film. I don't know why, but I did. Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those sneakers? I don't think I'll include that. I really enjoyed this film. It was creepy. It was unexpected. It stars, I've forgotten his name, Justin Long. I had to look it up. I couldn't remember. I quite like Long, though he hasn't done as many films recently. He was really good in this, and I really liked the story actually. It was different to other things I've seen. It is more supernatural in nature though, I have to say, but it is excellent. I found this one an unexpected surprise, and I loved how the tension just ramped up throughout this film. And the last film is Oculus, 2018. This one I really liked the concept, the idea. I thought it was original and different. Original in a horror film, I should say. I like the performances. There is a girl, I can't remember her name now, Karen Gillan, I think. She stars in it. From Doctor Who and not the Avengers, the Guardians of the Galaxy films and the Jumanji series, the remakes anyway. And actually I have one more, an honourable mention. Wolf Creek 2005, which is loosely based on a true life serial killer in Australia. The actor who stars in this, John Jarratt, I have known for many years. I've seen him in many things in Australian TV shows, and he usually plays a nice guy. It was so interesting seeing him play something else, and he is creepy as all hell. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth watching. This one is spooky, in my opinion. Well, that is 21 actually, but I won't count the honourable mention or the sequels anyway. This isn't a list of my favourite horror films, though it probably includes most of them. So let me know what you thought of my list. Let me know if you've heard of all these films, if you've seen them. I would love to hear your opinions on this list. And you can put it down in the comments, or you can contact me on Instagram. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me. And if you like this video, you can do the usual. You can like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Enjoy your Halloween, and until next time, stay scared.